Hi. Hello. Nice to see you again. If it is again. Maybe it's the first time here. In which case, that was a weird start. But today we are doing something very similar to a video I did before. Like the Apple video. So this quality is so terrible. Yeah, but whatever. We're doing something similar to them. Where we're taking a meme and we're kind of unpacking it. So today what we're doing is shit. Fuck. Need to pull my thing up. We are doing solving the trolley problem with memes. Today we will be solving the issue that's plagued philosophers for a while now, with you know with memes because we're going to be solving all those memes. And it's going to be pretty easy, Pro philosopher here. Everybody says it, Plato. He said to me, he was like, "Theo, you are." Who's Theo? Ratlower, you're the best philosopher of all time, and never met a better philosopher. And so I think I'm very qualified for this. So let's get started to it. So before we really dive into the memes, we're going to want to have some background info here, so we all fully understand what's going on here. So the trolley problem was originally developed by Philip Foot, and Philip Foot thought of a problem in which a tram is coming or a train, and a person is or five people are tied to the train track, and you want a bridge above that train, and there is a large man that you can throw off the train, throw off into the train, and he will stop the train for some reason. Um, but if you throw him off, he's going to die. So it's essentially the same thing as the one versus five scenario, but it's just that was just Philippa Foot's original version of it, and she created it as a utility, like a critique of the utilitarian like consequentialist mind, in the idea that like you can sacrifice human life like this, but also that Philippa Foot, it was not necessarily just a critique because Philippa Foot, I think, don't quote me on this, but I think she was a utilitarian herself. So she kind of also wants to show that picking the smaller number is what everyone naturally does. So utilitarian does work. I mean, yeah, all that. I think, yeah, it's more of criticism of virtue ethicism, but we'll get into that. Um, there have been many updated versions of it. So the current one where we think of, where a tram and then the button or whatever, and then the two things. That's by Jarvis Thompson, and it was like the new version. There's not much more to say on that. It's the same thing, really. And then a study by Chalmers. This is the last little interesting fact I found: is that 90% of the general public choose to kill one person, the one person on the track, but 68% of philosophers choose the same. So there's more philosophers that would kill five than there are people, and we'll get into why that is a little, well, in the next slide, really. Let's just move on so I can talk about it. Um, this is because of deontological ethicists. Now, deontological ethicists would say that in this situation, well, not all of them, but some of them, with by pulling the lever, you are making an active choice. You're making an active choice to kill someone, and if you let it go and kill five people, that's not an active choice, and you don't really have same the same aim responsibility for it. So if you were to pull it, you'd have responsibility, and if you don't pull it, you don't have responsibility. So that's why some other philosophers are saying that we shouldn't pull it, and that's the argument against it from deontological ethicists. And the argument for it is mostly a utilitarian argument, in the idea that the greatest happiness for the greatest amount is what we should get. So we kill the five, well, kill the one to protect the five because the five will bring the happiness to the most people. And this is quite a simple concept, the ontological, they think, do the right thing. The right thing is to do nothing, because otherwise you'd be taking action. And utilitarians, they just want to save the right amount. So we're getting this is kind of basic here. But as we move into different scenarios, you'll see how those concepts really play around in different trolley problems. Because really, the basic trolley problem I think to most people, unless you're a deontological ethicist, and most people aren't deontological ethicists, only like hardline Christians are, or classic philosophers. Um, so to most people, I understand why that 90%, they kill the one, and it does make sense. It's the normal solution, but it's not the only. That's the right thing to say. To. It's not the only trolley problem. So the next problem is our first meme. Um, if you do nothing, the trolley will kill five innocent people. And if you pull the lever, the trolley will kill a butterfly. And that could or could not result in the eradication of the whole world. So, what do you do? Well, a utilitarian will say, save the butterfly because the whole world is at stake, but kill and kill the five, right? Or, but okay, this is where our nuance that we were talking about earlier comes in because of the hedonic calculus or the hedonistic calculus. No, it's not called the hedonistic calculus. I spelt it wrong. It's the hedonic calculus. Um, this is Jeremy Bentham. And Jeremy Bentham is kind of the guy who developed utilitarianism. It was around before, but he's the kind of guy who put it into one theory. And he came up with the hedonic calculus, which is a way to calculate if your decision is ethical and if it aligns with the principles of consequentialism or utilitarianism. And a part of the hedonic calculus is certainty. And this is the idea that the action that you take, is it going to, how likely is it to cause that most harm or pleasure? And by this likelihood, we can decide what we're going to choose. So if it's very likely that the butterfly will destroy the entire world, then yes, Bentham would agree, kill the five. If it's very unlikely that the butterfly will kill the whole world, then Bentham may say, well, five people are certain to die. On the other hand, the whole world is could but unlikely to blow up. So he'd say save the five. I think he would say save the five. That's debatable, maybe. So on the other hand, I'm saying deontological here. I'm going with the ontological as a definition of um, some kind of strict ethicist, like an Aquinas, maybe a virtue ethicist as well, but that would be a little more debatable. Um, kill the butterfly. So they would say kill the butterfly because killing the butterfly is the same thing as pulling the lever, in which you're not taking a direct action. It's not certain. What you do is directly linked, and so you're not to blame. It's still a virtuous act. It's a more virtuous act than killing five people directly. So by pulling the lever and killing the butterfly, you are doing the more virtuous thing. So in line with virtue ethics, and you're not breaking principles like Aquinas' principle to do no harm, not do. What's it called? Well, the principle to not hurt anyone else. Yeah. So there you go. This is the next slide, right? Yeah, this is the next slide. So our next trolley problem is solve the trolley problem if you pull the lever, and then you'll be responsible for all the deaths that come from applying your solution to the trolley problem. So if your solution is one person dead, then every one person that gets in the deaths of the trolley will be on your fault. Um, and the other one is immoral deaths occur because there is no solution to the trolley problem. Again, right? This is the same situation as the original trolley problem, in the idea that if you leave it and walk away, you're not responsible. But it's more clear here because it is actually telling you that it's unexplainable deaths, right? They're not they're not as they're not directly linked to you. It's like the idea that, and I think I'd agree with this because the idea that you could cure cancer, right? So if you could just like cure cancer right now, and why don't you? Like the the fact that you're not curing cancer does not make you responsible for every single cancer death, right? So it's the same thing. It's like you could, well, you you couldn't cure cancer, but the ability, trying to word this in a way that makes sense. Um, the fact that you're not curing cancer, or that you're not even trying to, at all times, means that, on the other perspective, it would mean that you would be responsible. But obviously, by not trying to cure cancer constantly, um, you're not responsible. You're just trying to live your life, right? Um, and the same kind of solution applies here. So I think I would agree that if you didn't solve the trolley problem, it wouldn't be your direct fault that that all the people would die. Let's see what the actual ethicists think. Um, for util, if the same number of deaths in each, the choices are equally bad. So basically, if your result, your answer to the trolley problem is to, I don't know, kill five, and the moral deaths, of people not knowing the answer to a trolley problem is to kill, occasionally one, occasionally five, because people don't know the answer, right? Then your choice, that's the worst one, simply because you're killing more people, and killing more people is bad. So whatever works out to kill more people is the worst one. For virtue ethicists, well, I guess we could also work out. Yeah, no, actually, leave that. We're moving on. Um, for virtue ethicists, producing knowledge is virtuous, and so it also means that you're not taking direct action. So if you're not taking direct action, you're not directly responsible, and therefore it's not harming your virtue, and you're producing knowledge. Well, actually, no. I'm mixing my brain a little bit. One choice is to produce knowledge. The other choice is to not be directly responsible. So I put here that you probably would go left because of the idea that you're producing knowledge. But you could also give a decent argument for saying that virtue ethicists wouldn't want to be involved. Although I think virtue ethicism is a little beyond that, in the idea that you are. It's not consequentialist ethics, but I think you could still make the link between the immoral deaths and you within virtue ethicism. So I would probably say the producing knowledge, and lowering deaths, if you pick the one, would probably be the best one, would be the most virtuous thing to do. But it could be argued either way. And finally, for the general deontological, I'm thinking Aquinas here mostly. By contributing to the knowledge, you are actively responsible. As simply as I put before, you can't break the rules. And the rules are do not kill people. If you come up with a solution that kills people, then you are responsible. And you cannot do that. So you should pick the one where you don't do anything. There we go. That's the next meme solved. Let's go on to the next one. So this one's quite interesting. It's a valuation of relationships in ethical problems, which is a good question, I think. Not enough people talk about relationships in ethical problems because they really are quite important. Because obviously, as humans, we're going to be affected by relationships. So on one track, we've got five people. On the other track, we've got one person, but the one person loves you and you love them. They're your friend or lover or whatever, a family member or something like that. So Bentham is hardline utilitarianism. He he thinks everyone is the exact same, and if you're a utilitarian, you should treat everyone the exact same, no matter what they do, no matter who they are, no matter what they've done in the past, whatever. Um, or even if they love you, it doesn't matter. So obviously, in this situation, you run over your family member or your lover or whatever, which is kind of obvious. And Peter Singer, he came up with the idea of preference utilitarianism, which we don't really need to get into, but basically, preference utilitarian is same thing as the other one, basically, but instead you're like you're trying to get you're trying to accommodate the most people's preferences. So if someone wanted a sweet and the other person wanted and another person wanted a different type of sweet, but then a third person wanted the sweet that the first person wanted, then the preferences would say pick the sweet that the first person wanted because that like helps the most amount of people through their preferences. It's hard to explain. Um, But he has an interesting part within his preference for utilitarianism where he talks about relationships and love. And he says, similar to J.S. Mill, that relationships are natural and they'll just exist. You can't really change anything about that. So relationships, he thinks, they should be accounted for. And so if you were to save a loved one over one, if it was a choice between kill a person or kill a loved one, just kill a person you don't know, kill a loved one, then he'd say, yeah, you're justified in killing the person. Peter Singer would probably agree with Bentham here, in that five people over one is still, even if you love that person, it's still an immoral choice. It's an understandable choice. Like, it's not an inhuman choice, but it's an immoral one. Maybe if there were two people, he might accept it. I don't know if he would accept it, but he probably would accept one on one. But in this current situation, it's just too many people are lives at risk. So in both situations, we're gonna kill the person, and obviously, if it's thinking deontologically here, to not pull the lever is still to be the best decision. So every ethicist would say, kill that person. Okay, so this one is a little long, as you can see. Basically, I'll give you the gist of it because you don't want to read all that. There's there's a quantum dimensional tram. This tram can go through different dimensions to kill these different people in the boxes. There are four people on one track, three people on a different track. There's one track where there's no people, and there's two tracks on the side where there's two people. Basically, the trolley has a different chance of killing different amount of people. So it's got a 50% chance of killing one, 25% chance of killing four, or none. And I don't know where the final percent of chance goes, but oh no, yeah, I don't know. Oh, I think it's 25% chance of killing four and 25% chance of killing none. Okay, cool. So basically, we're working out, again, referring back to that certainty rule. Um, so if you do nothing as well, so this complicates stuff. If you do nothing, you might kill everyone or no one, or in some worlds or in some in others. So we're also working with multiverse theory here, um, in the idea that there are multiple versions of these people stacked on top of each other, all in this situation, and they all have their lives at risk, which is a bit confusing, obviously. And the last clause is that we are a virtue ethicist. We are a classic Aristotelian virtue ethicist. And I'm going to work within this for the first decision, but I'm going to branch off in a second as well. So, as a virtue ethicist, yeah, there isn't a good choice. To risk someone's life by pulling the lever, not good. To not to risk someone's life by not pulling the lever, also not good. It's a game of chance, and a virtue ethicist does not like a game of chance, because there is no virtuous choice within this. The most virtuous choice that I could come up with is maybe you could refer back to that idea of I said drinking because I'm drinking water. Of pulling the lever is an active decision, and not pulling it is not an active decision. But if a virtue ethicist is given the information, then not pulling it will kill possibly everyone, or no one. They can't act like they're not making an active choice, because there is an active choice, because these are the two choices basically. So, so they would just probably say this is an impossible thing, right? You can't really work this out and still be virtuous. If you're put in this situation, I think that most people, or virtue ethicists, would say that it wasn't really your fault to begin with as the lever puller. There isn't really a way that you can solve this and retain those traditional virtue values. So We're gonna get rid of virtue ethicism because not very interesting to say this is a virtue ethicist point of view. We're gonna say deontological. So, as a deontological ethicist, what I came up with is that pulling the lever means that the deaths are inconclusive, and it allows for no blame or the least amount of blame. This is because the dead people, possible dead people, in pulling the lever, are in boxes. We don't know if the people in the other worlds, which is not pulling the lever, who might be killed, are also in boxes or not. So the ones in boxes could be dead or could not. And if a deontological ethicist doesn't know doesn't know what's going to happen, can't know can't know the value of their decision, then they can act like their decisions better than it is. So if they were to pull the lever, basically, they would be killing someone or they wouldn't be killing someone. There's no way to know. And so they don't know if they've broken their rule or not. So not knowing is better than breaking, I guess, which is the only thing I could think of. Because if you don't think about it like that, then they both kind of result in the same thing. So I would say that a deontological ethicist would pull them. Finally, a utilitarian. Now, utilitarian, kind of obvious. They were just trying to save the most amount of people. I think the most amount of people would probably be to take the chance on pulling the lever as well. This is because it's got the 25% chance of killing none. We don't know the chance of not pulling the lever, what the chance of killing none is there. Also, how many worlds is it going to kill? Like, how many people in other worlds are there? Whereas this one has only got like 10, 11 people here. No, it's like, oh, 9 people. Yeah, it's 9 people. So it might kill more if you didn't do anything. So I'd say a utilitarian would pull it. Finally, this is our last one. Life has no meaning. There's no dichotomy. Would you choose to make up a meaning, construct a dichotomy, and suffer? So, you're God. Welcome. Shit. Welcome. You get to create a world. And this world, well, I guess you don't exist in this world. You're going to have to die as soon as the world is created because there is no meaning. Um, Now, I think essentially to this question is you need to know what kind of nihilism you believe. So we've got two types of nihilism here that I came up with, that we're going to use. Nietzsche's nihilism. So Nietzsche thinks that there's no inherent meaning to the world. This is because he doesn't believe God exists, or if God exists, God is dead. Um, and if this is true, then there can't be an afterlife, and there can't be an inherent meaning to each of our choices. So our choices here do not reflect anything later. There is no extra value about this world. But all is not lost because we can still obtain meaning through the experiences we have and the development of the Übermensch. So I think I did the right one there, Übermensch. I can't remember if that's like a Nazi tank or if that's what he said. I think it's Übermensch. Yeah, Übermensch. Because Nietzsche's ideas would turn into Nazi things later, but they're not necessarily. Well, they would turn into Nazi things because it was I think it was his stepbrother who changed his writings when he was in the mental asylum, so to make it more like Nazi sympathizing. Um, anyway, there is like so we can get joy, we can get sadness, and Nietzsche thinks that there is while there is an inherent value in this, there is some value within our world within this. So we can still like enjoy ourselves, and it's not completely suffering. And the Übermensch is the concept that there we can one day, or maybe not us, maybe another generation of beings or experiences or whatever, can create this new like species of people which can go on and discover new things about the world and will be better people. We don't know who they are or what they can be, but the idea that they can one day be there and break this cycle of suffering that we live in. Kind of gives a little bit of meaning to the world. It's not inherent meaning again, but it's some meaning. And the other idea we have here is modern nihilism. So modern nihilism, quite simply, it's kind of the Rick and Morty thing of, oh, there's no meaning to life. Feelings are temporary and they have no value on the afterlife because there is no afterlife. And therefore, everything in the world's meaningless. Every choice, every relationship, every feeling you get is meaningless. And you could just as well cure cancer as you could sit in your room and watch TV all day, and it would be just the same meaning. So there's no point to anything. Okay, so how does this affect our two major types of theories? Util, under Nietzsche, is would say that creating the world could be a good decision, and this would be based off the hedonic calculus. So if we do create the world, we have the possibility to suffer. Yes. But under Nietzsche, we also have the possibility to gain meaningful experiences and happiness. And we have the possibility to develop the Übermensch, which is also meaningful. So we've got to calculate through the hedonic calculus if it would be better to create the world or if it would be better to not create the world. But I think that it could go either way, really, depending on what kind of utilitarian you are and depending how you calculate it. Because obviously, it isn't like a maths calculation. There's couple of things to guide you, but really, it's your own choice. So I'd probably say that utilitarianism. I don't know. It depends on how much suffering you think there is in the world under a nihilistic view. There is a lot of suffering in the world, but the idea that the Übermensch could exist means that there could be a species that has no suffering. So if we ever reach there, or I don't know if it would be us, could be any species really. If something ever reaches there, then I think the world would be worth creating. Um, Under the modern version, though, there is no meaningful feelings, there is no meaningful anything, and there is only suffering. So if there's only suffering, it's kind of obvious that a utilitarian wouldn't like the world. Because you would just be putting everyone in suffering. And that if you start at a baseline of your existence and existence takes you down here and not up here, then if you go down from your baseline, utilitarians aren't like that. So you may as well stay at the baseline and never exist at all. So, next one, deontological. Under Nietzsche, I think they would say create the world because it is well, it's kind of like the virtuous decision to give people a chance to also be virtuous. If we would refer back to Kantian ethics, under the idea that kingdom of ends and all that, and the principle must be universalizable, we have to give people a chance to also be ethicists within their own right. And by creating the world, we can give people a chance to do that. And because there is meaning in the world, not inherent meaning, but there is still meaning in our choices, then ethics can still exist and there can still be ethicists. So we can create the world. But under the modern version, there is no meaning. And so the entirety of the ontological and its ideas collapse. Because if there's no meaning in the world, there are no rules to follow. There are no deontological things to do, right? You can't you can't say we need to create a kingdom of ends, which is the Kantian idea that we need to allow everyone to be moral. You can't say that because no one can be moral because morality doesn't exist because there's nothing to base it off. So basically, I guess don't create the world. Do create the world. There's no framework to tell you that. You just have to work it out yourself under the ontological. So I don't know. I don't know about that one. But there we go. You've finished. You've you've successfully solved all the trolley problems, and it's finally over. You've killed the guy, and we're done. All of these memes came from at trolley problem, by the way. If you want to see more trolley problems, um, But yeah, I'm glad we solved that. Put that old debate to rest. And you can see why Plato recommended me. You know, I am the best. So, so thank you for listening. Enjoy your day. Don't know why I keep doing that.